Hello, everybody. It's 1:53 p.m. Central Time on the 10th of May, 2023. It's Wednesday here in the United States and Thursday already internationally. We're almost to the end of the week. I hope you had a good one. We're here to talk about seismic events. I've got a big earthquake to report to you. Take a look on the screen if you can see it. 7.5, 7.6, depending on who we go with. USGS had it at 7.6. I think they still do. Let's get that on the screen here. They have it listed in the Tonga region. 16 felt reports on the USGS site, which is actually a fair amount of people to report in from over there. And they had a tsunami statement issued with this, but it wasn't a warning or a watch, and anything would be right around the area in question where the earthquake was. Let me show you where the earthquake struck and remind everybody that this past week's forecast, which I will actually take you over and show you over on my YouTube page here. We can go back to 8 days ago, 9 days ago, 12 days ago, somewhere in this range. We started talking about the watch north of New Zealand in the Kermedecs Islands, and we warned everybody from just north of New Zealand here at the Catcher's Mitt, all the way up here to the north to Fiji and Tonga. And we warned you for up to a 7.5. So here we are. We're on day 12 to 13, and I issued a 10-day watch. So we're 2 days beyond, 3 days beyond the watch time. Now, the spot where the earthquake struck, I should take you back over to the USGS site now and show you on the red-lined map here I show all the time. This is the Indo-Australian plate boundary. And we got a deep 7 down below the Indo-Australian plate boundary, prompting me to issue the warnings for a new larger earthquake to take place. And the spot to watch, one of them, over to the east north of New Zealand, in the Kermedecs to the north, all the way to the Pinnacle Tip, as I talked about there. There's the Pinnacle Tip, and that's what was struck. So the north side of the area where we were watching instead of the south side, and that's good news because there's way less people up here than there are down here. Now, this is obviously the stretch that we're talking about between New Zealand and Fiji that just started to move today. So a new 7.5 to 7.6 earthquake cannot be dismissed. We went many months without any 7s reported. Over the winter, you remember that. So to get multiple 7s in the course of a few weeks' time, pretty obvious there's something going on down below that red line. That red line that I just showed you here on the north side of the Indo-Australian plate. Now, look what else is happening over to the west and up to the north. Now, up to the north, Japan. I had no idea the earthquake was such a big earthquake. They have it listed as a 6 or 6.2 here from the USGS. But if you go see those videos, man, that's some big shaking going on there. We were looking for a same-sized earthquake as this, 7 to 7.5, to strike from Hokkaido up to Kamchatka. Now, you'll notice there is nothing there. I'm going to go back 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. Still, nothing there. You'll see on either side, we're just going gangbusters on either side, but big, open, silent area. In an area that's normally seismically prone, it's gone completely quiet from Hokkaido all the way to Kamchatka, picking back up at Kamchatka, and of course, going from central Japan to North Japan. Let's go look and see what's really moving. Look, the spot that broke in Japan, look where it is. It's right along the plate boundary to the west on the H-shaped plate boundary to the west. Now, the rest of the earthquakes going up along the coast up to Hokkaido, stopping there, picking back up here at Kamchatka, going over to Alaska, leaving this as our open area where there's no seismic reported of any kind in the last 7 days, 6 days. That's USGS quakes there. So they supposedly report everything 4.5 greater, right? Anyway, this is where we're watching for our second large quake to strike. This one is 3 days late. I'm 3 days off. I'm trying to get it down. When I do a forecast, a 7 to 10 day forecast, that's to try to get it down to a time frame where we can really watch. I don't want to have people watching for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And once you get out to that 3 and 4 week, the probabilities and everything else changes. Things change in those times, in that 2 week time frame. You can have other solar storms like what just happened, for instance. So, if you're not aware, let me just take you back in time. A series of solar storms happened over the past several weeks, leading to new deep earthquakes. A bunch of new big deep earthquakes that you don't see on the screen here now, prompting me to issue the warnings that we're talking about being fulfilled now. So, a couple of weeks ago, when the solar storms hit, the northern lights came down to the lower 48 all the way down to Missouri, and we got our big deep earthquake. Then I issued the warning for this. Now this is hit. It took 13 days for that to happen, the whole process. From the point where the solar storm happened, from the sun, to come to the earth, to go down to the core, to come back up, to spread out with deep quakes, to then cause a shallower, larger quake. Boom, here we are, 13 days. And I try to get, it's 7 to 10 days. There have been times where I issued 14-day watches. So, all right, there's your update on the 7.5 on the edge of the plate boundary on the Indo-Australian plate. We're looking for something north of Japan. Has not happened yet. I'm not going to cancel the watch in light of this earthquake striking today north of New Zealand. What do we watch for now? Well, now that this earthquake has struck, it itself is still deep, 200 kilometers deep. I consider anything 200 or more a quote-unquote deep earthquake. Now, why does it matter? Well, deep earthquakes leverage in on the underside of the plate. Best way to put it, a wave coming in from the underside of the plate comes up through the plate and then spreads out and away in all directions from where the deep earthquake strikes. So it's like a person lifting on the underside of something, and then the force spreads up, out, and away through whatever you're lifting on. Well, in this case, lifting on the underside of here, we have the plate boundary that goes over to the west, and the plate boundary that goes down to the south. USGS doesn't show anything over to the east, but we have two giant arrows. So what we're going to look for off this is a spread to go down to New Zealand directly, a spread to go over to the west directly, and a spread to go over to the east directly. How big? Well, with a deep 7.5, there is a potential for a shallower, larger earthquake up to 1 magnitude larger. 1 magnitude larger than the deep earthquake. It can happen. We've seen it happen before. But on big, deep earthquakes like this, usually the result is a huge planet-wide spread of large earthquakes, which are not as big as the original event. Instead, it's like a bunch of sixes go around the planet, for instance, off a deep 7.5. However, there is the potential for a shallower, larger earthquake next to this directly, which would put north of New Zealand and west to Solomon Islands in the potential mix for an 8 to come rolling in the next 7 to 10 days from now. And like I said, it took 13 days, so I really should say 7 to 14 days, right? But I'll put 7 to 10 days. We try to watch for a week, and we watch north of New Zealand, west to Vanuatu, New Caledonia, Solomon Islands. So from here down to here, we have the potential for a shallower, larger earthquake that could go up by a full magnitude, up to 8.5, which would be the biggest earthquake in, I want to say, a decade for the whole planet. It would be the biggest earthquake on the planet in a whole 10 years or something. Like a huge amount of time that we've had since something that big. But this is a big, deep earthquake, so the potential is there. I think personally, though, the spread of 6.5, so magnitude less, will go out in all directions and fill in our halfway points between our current sets of earthquakes. And then we have to look and see, look, it looks like a big triangle of quakes in the last 2 to 3 days across from all the way at Japan and Kamchatka. And then you see it, right? Hopefully you see it. It looks like a big triangle of earthquake. Let me turn all the numbers off so you can see it. Just picture recognition. Shape recognition is what humans do very well. Should be able to see that this is a big, giant cluster of quakes, and that spreading out from it like fractures in a windshield. We go across, somewhat equidistantly spaced, across Africa. Here, to see the equidistant spacing across all of Russia and Africa, you almost have to be a world away. But you see it now, right? It's like a line of earthquakes that goes from Siberia all the way down and across into Africa, bisecting half the planet. Now I'm going to turn the magnitudes back on. You'll see they're all the same size. 4.4 in the middle, 4.4 to the south, 4.7 at the perimeter to the south, 4.7 in the middle, 4.8 and 4.7 on the far perimeter to the north, and going all the way up to the Arctic Circle, we have the same size. So, I mean, it's the same size quakes going across from one side to the other. Did I say the same size? I mean, within the magnitude. We're within a half magnitude. 4.2 and 4.3 to the north, 4.4 and 4.4, 4.6 in the middle, 4.4, 4.4, and 4.7 to the south. It's all the same size quakes. It's a giant wave going across 1/4 to 1/3 of the planet in a day and a half's time, from Siberia all the way down to Africa, as the wave is spreading across out of this. And, of course, it's spreading the other direction, out in the other direction over towards Alaska and the United States. And lo and behold, in the past 2 days, we had a new 5 in the middle of the Aleutians, new mid-range 4s coming across, and a 4.3 to 4.4 striking off the coast of Canada. 4.3 to 4.4, just like on the other side of the planet. And these are all the earthquakes, 4.0 and greater, or 3.5 and greater, actually. So you can see it spreading in both directions out all and away. Let's get into the United States, because another 4.3 to 4.4 earthquake struck over off the coast of Bermuda, at the edge of the Bermuda Triangle. This is just so bizarre. It's like 12 to 15 miles off the coast, or maybe 20 miles, off the coast of Bermuda. And this is the bizarre part. Let me take you over and search Bermuda Triangle Yahoo. There it is, 1 day ago. So, yesterday, or late last night, this story broke from Popular Mechanics. A scientist has come out and says he solved the Bermuda Triangle, just like that, and that it doesn't mean anything. The whole article is a downplay on the Bermuda Triangle, saying it doesn't mean anything, that the crashes that happen there are just like the crashes that happen around the rest of the world, and the only reason people think it means something is because they pay attention to the Bermuda Triangle. Anyway, they get a look at that, right? Okay, we got double trouble up in here. Now, all I got to say about that is it's really weird, because this story broke first, okay, May 9th at 12:55 Central Daylight Time. Why does that matter? May 9th at 12:55. Well, here we are. And here we are at May 9th at, look at this. This is UTC time. Now, you have to minus 6 hours off that to bring it to my time. And what time does that put it at? It puts it at 12:48 p.m. Central Time. Right after noon. 12:48. Here we are at 12:55. And they have a whole story already out in the news. The same 5-minute time, at the same time is what I'm really saying. It is. It's the same time. The story breaks at the same time that this earthquake gets reported in. So let's go get the earthquake info. Isn't that weird? Isn't that odd? A rare, hardly ever happens earthquake strikes at the edge of the Bermuda Triangle. Now, wait, wasn't there a warning issued for a 4.5 earthquake for Virginia right here? This is Virginia right here. Wasn't there a warning issued for a 4.5 quake to strike there? Yes. Go watch my video from 12 days ago and 8 days ago. And I issued a 1-week warning, 7-day watch. Here we are, just beyond it. Issued a warning for Virginia for a rare mid-range 4 to strike. And in my update from 8 or whatever days ago, I said, well, guys, the last time I warned the East Coast, I warned New Jersey, here in Delaware. And instead, a 4.5 struck out here off the coast. So maybe that'll happen again. I'm warning Virginia for a 4.5. Maybe the 4.5 will strike out here off the coast and it won't matter to anybody. Well, what just happened? And it's not a military test. 7.6 kilometer depth. Can't blame it on a military test. Can't blame it on sonic booms. But there it is. So I find this bizarre. The story that breaks at the same time or around the same time or just before. And I don't know if this was, maybe this was on Popular Mechanics before. Was it? I don't think so. Where would it be? I don't see it just like on their site just as something coming up. So pretty interesting to see that, right? And then the quake. So in the interest of science, I have to move on. All right, let's go over to the west now and talk about this. A new 5 and swarm outbreaking here. And we're right here at the Baja Peninsula. But are we? Isn't there something here at Campo Pesquero, El Colorado, Mexico? I can't say it right, man. Don't even try. Why am I even trying? Let's go take a look. See if there's anything there. 6.7 earthquake from September, but this is the fracture zone. Now, on the north side, oh wait, what's this? I wonder what that is. Must just be some scan line errors from the boat or something. Oh wait, the 200-foot mounds and depressions? Go in here. Oh wait, you mean I've shown this before? Oh, I must have forgotten about the 50-mile-long thing 5,000 feet deep that's down there that they tried to say was a UFO base, and the mainstream media tried to dismiss as a UFO thing, and then it turns out that it was actually there. They tried to say it was a bathymetric sea measurement error or something. Don't worry about the earthquakes next to it on the fault fracture zone, which is both a fault and fracture zone. Let's go look at the rest of the United States. How about New York, Maine, and New Brunswick getting hit? In case you paid attention to our forecast this past week, we talked about watching the far northeast, including Maine and New Brunswick. However, I am a full magnitude and a half, almost 2 magnitudes off. Actually, I am 2 I was looking for an upper 3 to low 4 to strike here at Maine. And instead, and I mentioned New Brunswick, but here we are, we're at the New Brunswick side of the border, and it's just 2. I'm, again, a magnitude and a half off on what I was looking for there. The rest of the plate moved as expected. We have, I think, one more day to go in the Texas Watch. I issued the Texas Watch a day or two after my 7 to 10 day watch. I don't know how many days, but I think it expires either today or tomorrow. Probably today for Texas we were looking for a 5 to strike in Texas and a 4 to strike in Oklahoma. I'll get to California in a moment because that looks like it's not there either yet, but we'll get to that in a second. So I issued a warning for a new 5 to come rolling into Texas and a new 4 to come rolling into Oklahoma. Nada. So let's get into this. Nothing in Northern California, nothing in Texas, nothing here in Oklahoma. In other words, the wave arrival that I'm looking for either A, hasn't arrived at all yet, or B, won't ever be arriving, and I'm totally wrong. But we're already now a day beyond or getting to the day of full expiration of the warning. So is there going to be a 5.5 in Northern California? And is there going to be a 5 down in Texas? And is there going to be a 4 over in Oklahoma? Well, not yet. But I've been 3 days off on the rest of the planet, apparently. And not just apparently. I am 3 days off, or 2 to 3 days off on each one of my spots so far. So that would lend credence to us watching for this. And I still chalk it up in my own mind as, okay, why did it take longer? This doesn't fall within my forecast parameters, whatever. I don't keep a ledger or a checklist, though, and nobody really cares if I get it right or wrong, do they? Well, no, everybody cares if I get it wrong. Yeah, that's right. Never mind. Everybody cares if I get it wrong. If I get it right, though, we give credit to that guy from the Dutch guy, right? We give credit to the Dutch guy if I get it right. Who's the Dutch guy? I'm not talking about myself. The other guy. The other Dutch guy. We give him credit if I get it right. So, if I get it right, he gets credit and I get slammed. And if I get it wrong, I get slammed. Anyway, here's a case where I got it right. 7.5, Fiji. 3 days beyond where we issued the warning. And it might happen a couple times a year, 2 or 3 times a year at the most. So to get it down to a couple days, it's very good. I'm very pleased with the method. If you want to know how to forecast, I've already put out the directions. How to forecast an earthquake by Dutch Sense. Let's get into the Northern California part of this. Where is the 5.5? Well, something else has happened since starting of what? May? Something since the start of May. has developed here in the Northwest. I don't know if you're all aware of the giant fires which broke out to the north, up in Canada. If you watched my videos from 10 and 12 days ago, you know about Mexico. Mexico continues. Central America continues. The fires in Mexico are now spreading up through Mexico up to the north along the mountains. And up in Alberta, the fires still carry on. The smoke has reached the east coast of the United States. Now, this is not exactly fire season yet, is it? As a matter of fact, I think there's still some snow on the ground up there. We can even go possibly see it on the visible satellite, which I'm going to go do right now from College of DuPage. I just want you to see the smoke over on the East Coast. Take a look at it. That smoke is coming from all the way over here at Alberta. It's going up over the Arctic Circle, coming back down over the Hudson Bay, coming over the East Coast. And the smoke in Mexico, which right now doesn't look too bad, coming up out of the south, going right up into Texas, of all places. Now, to see any of this, you're probably going to have to look at faraway distant view of North America, whether that's on satellite or whether that's on a floating balloon, I don't know. Maybe it's CGI. But if it's CGI, then they're CGI-ing the smoke from real fires, because did you see the videos coming out of Alberta? Anyway, it's all smoke and haze up here across the northern hemisphere now, across all of northern Canada, going up and across and back down to the east coast. And that is smoke. Now, we can even see it, I think, from last night and yesterday. Let's just take it in. Yeah, here's yesterday. There's yesterday. That's all smoke coming down and out, over, and getting drawn into the rotating low pressure system there. See the slight discoloration? Okay, it goes back up and over and comes back down here. Jet stream is going up, over, and back down this way. It's crazy. So throughout the day yesterday, and then there's last night. Here we are this morning. It's still lingering around, blowing around in there. And all that, it looks like white on the ground there, that's all snow. And if we come up and look in the northwest, up here, well, let's move this. There we go. There's last night. That's all smoke. Alberta. Here we are today. And it's looking a little better. Now, they did a little bit of weather modification on this thing. I don't know if you guys managed to catch that. I made some, well, you can still see the remnants of what they were doing over it. There you go. Now, these are the remnants. They did massive cloud seeding over the area to create rain. And, well, I think you could see it. Had a fair amount of rain in the area. That wake up in the morning and 50-mile fires are put out. A pretty good job on the weather mod. Not that I encourage weather modification, but, whoa. Not that I encourage weather modification, but please. See all the fires gone today. Oh, and by the way, they all are gone all of a sudden. It's 50-mile wide fires after the big weather mod. We come in and take a look at the shortwave infrared. And, oh, wait, I clicked on the wrong region here. Shortwave infrared should show us any black dots of any fires. And, well, I mean, I see maybe one over here. Maybe one. I mean, here's what they look like. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, the black dots of the fires. Several hundred acres or 1,000 acres or so showing up as like these black splotches on shortwave infrared. But then they're gone after it rains and the weather mod hits and everything. And this was all burning. So major, major burning. Now it's not. Now, why am I bringing that all up? Go back 2 weeks. Go back 2 weeks. Just go back and listen to the topic of discussion in my videos. I brought up Canada. I brought up the west coast of the United States. I brought up the plate shifting, which we were seeing major seismic spread over. Yellowstone started to get a swarm. And we talked about watching all the explosions in the Pacific Northwest. This is 2 weeks ago. Then the earthquakes in Northern California. Then I brought up the fires. And I talked about watching and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, here we are. And it went next level, overdrive, insane fires. Those Alberta fires, it reminded me of the California fires. Insane. Now let's go over and take a look at the last couple days of quakes coming down across the edge of the North American craton. I'm going to turn on the craton diagram so you can see it if you're a new viewer, and we're going to compare to the earthquakes coming out of the Pacific Northwest. This is 2 days. Let's look at 7 days, and just turn up the rings ever so slightly. So you'll notice there's like a ring. The ring is going around that deformed edge, the purple part on the diagram. Then you'll see the earthquakes go down through Texas, back up through Oklahoma, then back across through the south United States and up the east coast. Or hopefully you can see that. There we go. So this is 7 days worth of quakes. I'm going to turn all the numbers back on so you can just see what the magnitudes are associated with that. But earthquakes flow across the edge of the craton. But really it's something flows across the edge of the craton. And that's dropping off the earthquakes along the way. So now that you've seen the flow across the craton, let's go look and see where it's coming from. It's coming from the northwest. And now my flop on Northern California. I mean, come on, where's the 5.5? No earthquake in Northern California of any significant size. That's highly suspicious. That's very, very strange to go weeks on end without anything significant on land or anywhere close to it by Eureka, while the rest of it's moving up to the north. That is odd. But same time, look at the quakes. They're going over to the east. Look at that. It's like a giant arrow. If you were to draw a line across these earthquakes going down through Yellowstone and follow the arrow, and draw a line coming along our other arrow out of Utah, they would both come together at a pinnacle tip in Colorado, right? Like a giant arrow in its own right. That's why I've got the arrows there. I noticed 11 years ago. Yeah, 11 years ago. 11 years ago, I noticed that there was this flow going on. And I decided to put the arrows on the map so you could see it easily. And that led to this from 11 years ago. I was trying to describe it in videos, and people were like, I don't understand what you're talking about, Dutch. I'm like, guys, there's earthquakes flowing across the edge of the craton. Here, look at this diagram that shows the craton. Here, look at which way the earthquakes are going, right? This is back when people said earthquakes were random. Professionals and everybody. 2011. Earthquakes are random. They happen all over the planet. It's like, oh, no. Like, you imagine popping off everywhere. No, they're following a trajectory. They're following a flow. They're actually going from one place to the other. They're shifting. We could follow it like a trajectory of a train on arrival times of a train, or a flood arriving further down a river. Anyway, you can see which way they're pointing. They're pointing to Colorado. And out in Colorado, lo and behold, on the edge of the craton, boom, outbreak down at Trinidad again. Then down through Texas, then over to the east. But that all being said, where's our 5.5? The wave has not arrived. The expected wave, the train, hasn't arrived. It's back up here still. How do I know? Look. You can see it. It's a stepping stone path of fours coming all the way over to BC. Then all the fires break out on the edge of the craton. Chance. Right? Chance. Oh, it's farmers burning their fields. It's control burns getting out of control, Dutch. Dur. How do you say dur in French? Les deux. Seriously, why? Since when do we believe the explanations on day 1 of anything? Or day 2 or day 10? My God, I don't believe it. Ever since 9/11, I don't believe the explanation of anything. Let's go back over it and just talk about the rest of the planet. We have a flow of earthquakes coming out of the West Pacific. We have a series of deep earthquakes. We have solar storms that are going on that are leading to all this. The solar storms are perturbing the core of the Earth, which then leads to this whole mess spreading out away from the West Pacific. Hence our big earthquakes spreading out away from the West Pacific. Now, I haven't even brought up Asia or Europe yet. Take a look. Again, we did talk about the spread going across all the way down to Africa, back across up into Siberia. Now, I didn't look up this earthquake down in Africa. I have not looked it up. Where's this? Zambia. Okay, let's go look it up. Let's go see what's in Zambia. You guys ever looked at Zambia? You ever looked it up on Google Earth to see what's there? I don't think I've ever had to look it up. We're normally to the east on the letter X. So is there anything here worth mentioning, I suppose? Something that might stand out as a feature or lending to the quake being at that spot? Sometimes it's just an unknown fault. If we get a bunch of volcanoes or something marked nearby, I would point towards that. Looks like we have Craton Edge here. That is a Craton Edge. You get something like this in the United States or in Europe. Makes a bend and comes back around this way. Okay, well, we've got a craton edge. What about this? What's going on here? Oh, wait. What's this? Lakes? I thought it was like a pit mine at first. All right, well, I'm not seeing any large mining facilities. I'm not seeing anything worth mentioning. Geophysically, I'm not seeing any kind of... Well, I'm seeing a few things that I would want to point out maybe in another video here. Across a good part of Africa, right in the middle of Africa. How did I never catch this before? Giant triangle in the middle of Africa, you'd miss it somehow. Look, comes up, goes back down. So help me God, if it's the same distance from back here to up here as it is from back here to up here, or if it's even close. I'm talking about from right back here, to see all the way up to here, and then there's the same thing going on the other side, and it kind of comes up and goes over. If it's the same distance on both sides, I would be troubled, to say the least. I would think that maybe this was some kind of giant ancient structure that would be somehow hidden over a long period of time. Again, if I measured it, should I measure it? Let's measure it. We'll measure it from back here. We could go all the way back to this little, what looks like a bend in the back. Does it do it on this side too, back here? Coming back down this way, does it bend to the back? I don't see it bend back this way. So let's just measure it. Let's do it. Let's just measure it from like right there up to here to where that lake or whatever that is, 830 or so miles. So help me God, if it's 830 on the other side, let's just say it's 850, right? Let's just, it's somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. If we take it all the way down to here, it's 920. So let's go on the other side and see. Oh, God. It's 900. It's 850 to 900, depending. From here, 850 to here, 850. It is. And you see where I'm talking about it coming down to the river valley there. So let's measure it across. Make sure it comes down right. 800 across. Or wait, am I even doing that right? No, hold on. 830, 850 across. It's an equilateral triangle. You gotta be shitting me. All right, I'm done. Seismic schmeismic. What do you want, an update on Europe? How about some earthquakes? How about Poland got hit? We were looking for Poland to get hit. Poland got hit. Check it off the list. You can tell I'm burnt out. You get all burnt out on this after a while of showing everything and trying to tell everybody what's going on, and then that kind of shit. You find that kind of stuff, and it just makes you want to turn it off, you know. It's pre-flood, Nephilim, giants, cymatic patterns of an ancient civilization, hashtag Tartaria. I don't know. All I know is there's earthquakes striking below all these damn places. It's getting annoying. Because I have to show it, and nobody wants to acknowledge that there was some kind of ancient civilization that was around that somehow harnessed wireless power or very low frequency. It's leading to earthquakes below these giant structures. But think about it, an 850-mile-long equilateral triangle structure in the middle of Africa. Yeah, there's nothing weird about that. And I'm measuring in miles, so it would probably be some other thing like cubits or something. It would be 1,000 cubits perfectly or something. Or the other way around. It would be, 500 cubits would be 850 miles or whatever it is. It'll come out to be exact measurement of whatever unit of measurement they use. Now, again, I'm using miles. But it's equilateral, whatever way you want to measure it. Equilateral triangle built in the middle of Africa. You got to be kidding me. See, I have these meltdowns where I start when I realize this stuff. And I've been finding this stuff all over the place. And I still have the meltdown when it's like cognitive dissonance almost. I'm like, I don't want to believe it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to acknowledge it. What does it mean? It means there was an advanced civilization that existed a long time ago before some kind of thing wiped them all out. Sound familiar, anyone? Oh my god. I think I've heard this story somewhere before. I just can't quite place it. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Right on the tip of my memory. Some story where there was an advanced civilization of people that got wiped out. Man, I've heard about this before somewhere. It wasn't Moby Dick. No. It's a long book, though. Wasn't War and Peace. Wasn't Moby Dick. Wasn't the Bhagavad Gita. Wasn't... Yeah, maybe it's definitely a religious book. Okay, I'm done. You guys, you need to have an earthquake plan, but I guess you're going to also need to be somewhat, have some moxie. You need to have some street cred and some knowledge. You're going to have to beef up on your armor and your two-handed sword capability and your magic levels. There is no cheat code. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start. The Konami code might give you 30 extra lives, but what good is it going to do? All right, this update really went off the rails. But you know what? Who cares? I'm my own boss. I'm going to record this. I actually recorded the whole thing. I'm going to upload this over to YouTube. People can see the masterpiece that it is to be alive. You can come along with me on our voyage together in our USS Dutch Enterprise. What do you want to call it? The SS Since. It's sort of like the... it's like the Minnow. It's like the SS Minnow. I'm definitely Gilligan. I'm not the professor. We've got plenty of professors out there. Tat's the captain. Skipper, I mean. And on that note, if you don't know who Tat is, I guess you wouldn't get the joke. But I think it's a good time for you to just take this as a sign that you're watching an earthquake update where the guy went way off track because he found some equilateral triangle structure 1,000 miles long or 800 miles long in Africa. Earthquakes down below it. There's some weird going on in the world. You need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes, I guess is the best thing to take away from all this. All the other stuff is just information that's just going to blow your mind and nobody will believe if you try and repeat it to them. No, really, I'll send you this video from YouTube. They all rolled their eyes. You're like, huh, yeah, right, okay. But there is something that they would all agree with, which is don't be scared, be prepared. Watching the earthquakes going around the planet, you can know ahead of time what the general magnitudes are going to be as the wave spreads. It's like a flood. We don't ignore floods. We don't ignore large storms that drop lots of rain that cause floods. So this is like what it's like with earthquakes. You can now see where the flood is taking place. You can see it spread out. So you shouldn't be shocked when it spreads out. It takes some of the fear away and replaces it with watching, vigilance. Okay? So nobody's going to argue with that when you tell them don't be scared, be prepared. And then, of course, an emergency kit. Nobody will argue with that either. I mean, you can use it for everything from a fire to a flood to an evacuation, even power outages. Okay, your emergency kit will come in handy. Flashlight, batteries, change of clothes, set of shoes, first aid kit, sanitation, medicines if you need them. And just have that into a bag, and that's a good idea to have for all sorts of things. Oh, ID and extra set of keys for your house or your car or whatever. I'm just reminding you, again, I know it gets really naggy and annoying to keep telling people in every update, but there'll always be someone new who's like, you know what, I think I'm going to do it. And they just do it, and then it actually helps them when something happens. So that's the good thing about all this is there'll be a few things that everybody will agree on. The rest of it, I don't expect you to agree with me on everything, but man, I'll tell you what, when I find and measure stuff like that, and there's an earthquake down below it in a rare location we don't normally see, how many times is this now? I'll say we're getting near 100. 100 different times where a noteworthy earthquake striking down below a rare location out in the middle of nowhere. I zoom in, look around, find one of these structures. Who had the ability to build 800-mile-long structures that are thousands of feet high, like mountains and valleys? Who had the ability to sculpt mountains and valleys a long time ago? We're getting into advanced technology. We're getting into ancient advanced technology. We're getting into an area I don't normally like talking about because it is a controversial topic still for some reason, even though it's so obvious now that there was something happened. Some of those stories might be true, guys. All of the stories might be true. But we don't have any proof on it other than the quakes and the structures. That's what I'm showing. So there it is. This update will end